In continuation of Man in Search of Man series, to document the film on 75 primitive tribes in India, presently I am in Mysore University, Mysore, Karnataka state. I came here to find out from the Department of Anthropology professors where the Koragas and Jain Kurubas are inhabiting. We have two primitive tribes here in Karnataka. This is the Mysore University, Mysore.
Now I am going to the Department of Anthropology.
From here, I will be going to the Department of Anthropology to meet the professors and find out the Koragas and Jain Kurubas and their available literature on them to proceed for the documentation of the film.
Man in Search of Man series.
Thank you, Professor, for extending your cooperation and support for documenting the film on Koragas.
It is rather pleasure to welcome you to the Department of Anthropology University at Mysore. And I also appreciate you for the work that you have taken for study on Koraga. Is that the Koraga, as Government of India rightly recognized, is one of primitive tribes, and the name itself suggests that economically, educationally, the technologically, culturally, they seems to be highly backward.
Koraga, an aboriginal tribe inhabiting in Dakshin Kannada and Udupi districts of Karnataka state. They are the poorest among the tribals inhabiting in India. They are also designated constitutionally as particularly vulnerable tribes of India. Etymologically, the name Koraga was originated from the word Kora, the first part of their name, which refers to the sun god, and also they are worshippers of the sun. They are also called as Koruvar, which in Tulu means the people of the hills. According to the Census of India 2011, the total population of the Koraga is 14,794 individuals. The first reference on Koragas was observed in 1807 by Francis Buchanan's writings. He saw Koragas are a good-looking people, although they were so many savages. They constitute a wild race according to the census of 1871 and aborigines according to the next census 10 years later. In both, however, they are treated as a subcaste under the broader head of pariahs. Gustav Operet in 1853, he has used the term as a race in describing the Koragas differently when he equated them with the Gaudian race, linked them to the Koragas of Coorg, and speculating about the possibility of their being connected to the Kushans. As per the census of 1891, the Koragas were classified as a subcaste under the main head forest and hill tribes. Thurston and the Madras Census Report 1901 describes the Koraga as a wild tribe of basket makers and labourers, chiefly found in Mudidri and in Puttur in the Uppinal-Gudi taluk of South Canara. They are a very quiet and inoffensive race. Small and slight, the men seldom exceed 5 feet 6 inches, black and skinned, like most Indian aborigines, thick-lipped nose, broad and flat, and hair rough and bushy. Their principal occupation is basket making, and they must labor for their masters. They live in the outskirts of the villages and may not dwell in the houses of clay or mud, but in huts of leaves called as koppu. Like many of the wild tribes of India, they are distinguished by unswearing truthfulness. Koragas have their own settlements called koppu in the villages, generally near a wooded area, which facilitated them to carry on the traditional work of collecting firewood, bamboos, wood and creepers with which they prepare baskets. These baskets are used mainly for agriculture purposes. The community suffers any hardship without eloquence rather than approaching others for help. Under various developmental schemes, the government has tried to rehabilitate these Koraga people in the outskirts of the villages where the colony has been made. Now we are observing the houses constructed by the government for their welfare. Here you can observe the houses are not that much hygienic and also not providing all the amenities required. Here no water resources are available and the houses are also very small and one room compartments. So many of them are deserted these houses and also living in the traditional way of life in the peripheries of the villages for their livelihood. Many of them have still thatched huts constructed by themselves with the palm leaves and coconut leaves as their traditional way of life they are leading even today. The Koragas have a language of their own, understood only by themselves, but seems doubtful whether this is anything more than an idiom or a slang. The traditional identification of the community is seen in their dress. Men wear a lungi and a headgear made of arca palm. They also wear an ornament on the earlobes. Women wear sari. Formerly no garment was used above waist. Nowadays the women wear blouses and saris. Nowadays they start using the nighties also to cover their body. Because of the poverty, many of them are not able to purchase the saris and blouses and they are purchasing the nighties at the cost of 80 to 100 rupees in the local market and they are using it to cover their body. It is an important aspect which you have to observe in the material culture and dress pattern among the Koragas. The ornaments used by women is very much limited. Only the black beads chain and the nose studs. Many of them doesn't have any ear studs also. Here you can see the shirt which is worn by a lady was purchased in seconds in the market and the black beads which is called as tali, that is marriage band. Koragas possess a few ornaments and that too of comparatively cheaper materials such as brass, silver or gillet. By and large, in a day-to-day use, the women mostly put on pair of rings usually made of brass and locally called as bindole. Some elderly women, however, put on large earrings known as onti. It appears that this is one of their traditional ornaments which is no longer popular and except a few elderly women, the younger women folk have more or less given it up altogether. Only a few elderly women sometimes put on the traditional ornaments like iron bangles or large earrings. So common in the past, these days the younger girls and unmarried girls mostly put on glass or plastic bangles. The Koragas are classified into two categories. The Koragas who live in the plain areas are called Kuntu Koragas, and the Koragas who found in the forest are named as Sappu Koragas, who are found generally inside the jungle. The classification is on the basis of their clothing habits. Those who use garments of leaves are called Sappu Koragas, and the other groups who uses cloths is called as Kuntu Koragas. In fact, all Koragas in the plain areas use cloths. Nowadays, the Sappu Koragas are also using the cloths. According to Lewis, 1962, the Koragas are divided into 5 subdivisions. They are Sappu Koragas, those who wear grass skirts; Kuntu Koragas, those who use kappada or vastras; Tippu Koragas, those who wear ornaments of shells and bones. Vanti Koragas, those who wear large circular earrings in their dilated earlobes. Kapputu Koragas, those who consisting of descendants of the army of Hubushika. Shearing in 1974 mentions the Koragas have three subdivisions such as Ande Koragas, Vasra Koragas and Sappu Koragas. These names are mostly based on the different kinds of dress pattern on the basis of available literature on the community. It seems that the following names have been appeared as subdivisions among the Koragas. These subdivisions we can equate with the lineages. Again, each lineage is divided into number of clans. The clans regulate the marriage system. Here we can observe some of the clans which are existing among the Koragas. Among the Soppu Koragas we have 11 clans. They are Guttarabali, Kullarabali, Bijjaragorabali, Hantor-bali, Konar-bali, Tandiyar-bali, Taliyanna-bali, Sirin-bali, Mukkunaya-bali, Bangaranna-bali, Tirigarayanna-bali. These are some of the clan names exist in Soppu Koragas. And coming to the Kuntu Koragas, we have 5 clans. They are Mandore-bali, Kurumbode-bali, Munnada-bali, Peranale-bali, Bandaro-bali. Among the Kappada Koragas, there are only 2 clans which are as Yakka-bali and Maripidi-bali. Clans are exogamous divisions. They cannot marry within the clan. One has to marry outside the clan. So, clan exogamy exists among these people. It is strictly followed. The institution of a Kudumba, that is family, governing a wider social dimensions of Koraga, kinship and family binds the brothers and sisters customarily and ritually. Even though after the marriage the sisters go to stay with their husbands, they observe certain ceremonies and rituals in their natal home. This is reflected not only in social and ritual functions but in the enjoyment of ancestral, that is Kudumba, property as well. Under the Kudumba framework, the head of the household usually make a member looks after the family property in the capacity of a trustee. He has no personal claims over the property and only his sisters and the children are entitled to enjoy this property. His wife and his children have no right to property, and she had children or heirs to Kutumba property located at their natal home. Thus, there is a sort of bilateral descent in the sense that the married females have their affiliations firstly with the Kudumba, particularly with reference to ancestral property as well as performance of certain rituals and religious rites, and secondly in the family of her husband where resides with the latter and her children. It is often found that the members of the Kudumba do not reside in the same village or town or separated by space, but during the certain important religious functions and ceremonies they are bound to join and meet at the headquarters of the Kudumba, particularly in the matter of annual worship of the Bhuta or the spirits which are associated with the ancestral head of the Kudumba. It is particularly obligatory for the members of the Kudumba to participate together in the purificated rites and in observing the pollution periods in case of death of a member of the Kudumba. In the property inheritance, the sister son had the right of inheritance among the Koragas. Aliya Santana or the matrilineal system has been until recently the original feature of the Koragas, as it is evidenced from the earlier literature on the Koraga community. Thurston observed the great number of the slaves belong to Ali Santana caste, that is inheritance in the female line, and among these people a male is sold for 3 pagodas, that is 14 rupees, and a female slave for 5 pagodas, whereas a few slaves who belong to the Makkala Santana, that is inheritance in the male line, fetch 5 pagodas for the man slave and 3 pagodas for the female. This is because the children of the latter go to the husband's latter, while those of the former go to the mother's master, who has the benefit of the husband's service also. The Koragas broken the traditional system and presently they are following both patrilineal and matrilineal inheritance of the property.
Okay.
The Koraga say that the birth of a child is a divine blessing. The first delivery usually takes place at the natal home of the expectant mother. During the 7th month of the first pregnancy, the Koragas, like other Hindu castes of the region, perform a ceremony called Basira Baike. Also it is called as Bachangi. The delivery takes place in a warm corner of the house. During the delivery, the patriarch is usually assisted by her mother of an elderly woman or a woman of the locality. The umbilical cord is cut with the knife and the placenta is called as kasa kept in an earthen pot which they cover with a lid. They smear the pot with a mixture of cow dung and clay. Thereafter, they dug up an amihonda or a pit about 2 feet deep, either at the usual place of bathing or any other convenient place inside or outside the hut, suitable for giving a bath to the mother of the newborn. Then the placenta will be covered with the mud. The pollution period lasts for 5 to 7 days. Although bath is given to the newborn child and the mother with warm water daily, they are considered ritually pure only after the 7th day, when the ceremony of a Muchundu is performed for putting an end to pollution associated with birth in the family. The Koraga perform 2 more ceremonies on the 7th day, which mark the end of the pollution period. These are the ceremonies associated with the cradle of the baby and naming the ceremony. Before cradling the female relations, anoint the baby with a coconut oil. In addition to close relations, they also invite the Girikadu that attend the ceremony. They also give a feast to the relations. Generally, the firstborn male child is named after his grandfather and the firstborn female child after her grandmother. On the occasion of, black string is tied around the waist of the newborn baby if he happens to be a male child. The Koragas generally name their children after the different days of a week, usually after the day on which it is born. Name is slightly modified. For example, Sunday, if the child is born, for a male child is called as Aita, for female Aitu. Monday, the child is born Toma, for female Tomu. Tuesday, Angara for male child and Angaru for female child. Wednesday, male child is given as Buddha, for female child Bubu. Thursday, for male child they give the name Guruva, for female child Gurubi. Friday, if the child is born, for male child Tukara they call and female child Tukuri they call. Saturday, if the child is born, they call for male baby as Taniya and female baby Taniyuru. Koraga have ceremonial attachment to the marriage negotiations. Usually marriage takes place at bride's house. Initially, the boy along with the parents and village elders go to the girl's house and proposes the match and negotiate bride price with the girl's parents. If the girl's parents accept the proposal, they fix another day for a formal engagement. If the girl's parents reject the proposal, then the bridegrooms or the boy's parents returns to their home without taking any meal or girl's house. On the day of the formal engagement, the boy's parents and elders visit the girl's house and presents few liters of liquor and new clothes to the girl. The elders of the girls' village assemble and the decision is informed to everyone in the village. The Gurikara or the village head plays an important role and actually officiates during the marriage ceremony. During the marriage ceremony, both the bride and bridegroom are seated beside each other and on a mat. The bride being always seated the left of the groom. Next, their palms are joined together and a coconut is kept. The father, mother and the Gurikara pour milk on the joined hands. During the time when these rites are performed, an earthen lamp is kept in front of the couple. Some akshata, that is turmeric rice mixed with turmeric rice, are showered on the couple by Gurikara, parents and relatives. After the ceremony, the couple gets up and prostrate in front of their elders. In early days, there was no thali, that is wedlocking. Bride price of 7 chakra, 1 chakra equal to 1 rupee and 75 paise, along with the new cloths, 7 kilos of rice, betel nuts, 7 patti betel leaves are given as a bride price. The bride and the groom walk up to the Bhutasthana, that is the deity place, and pour some water there. The couple are made to sit on the mat of the bridegroom ties the thali around the neck of the bride, and the thali, that is the marriage pendant, are considered to be the marriage symbol and sacred for the woman. Koraga practice burial, never cremate the dead. When a person dies, his corpse is brought out of the hut or the dwelling place and given a bath to the dead body by the family members. When the news of the death is known in the village or the locality, the Guru Kara, that is the village head, summons a few persons of the community for making necessary arrangements for digging the grave. 3 or 4 Koragas undertake this task and dig up a grave 5 to 6 feet deep. Before lowering the corpse inside the grave, the person who carries the bier to the burial ground circumambulate the grave thrice along with other mourners as well as the grave diggers. Next, they lower the corpse into the grave in a horizontal position. The dead directed towards the Turku, that is south direction, and the face upwards. When the body is placed in the grave in the proper position, the grave diggers stand at the edge of the grave in opposite direction facing each other and exchange the bill hooks used for the digging the grave 3 or 5 times. It is believed that by doing so, the spirit of the deceased becomes confused and fails to recognize them and therefore does not haunt them. The clothes of the deceased are kept inside the grave before covering it with the earth. The pollution period is observed from 12 to 13 days, but the purificated rites, locally known as Bojia, are observed on the 40th day of the death of a person. On this occasion, the close relations are fed, and in the evening, a patni or a soothsayer is called to perform certain rites. He spreads a small quantity of ash in the corner of the hut of the deceased and keeps a low wooden stool over it. Next, he spreads some cooked rice and water on the stool, and there he sacrifices a fowl. The soothsayer, receiving the sacrificial fowl as a gift, declares that Jakani Bhuta, or the spirit of the departed soul, has accepted the offering and is happy with the family members. He also receives 1 or 2 rupees of his service. The Koraga traditional occupation are basketry and drum beating and scavengery. They used to beg rather than undertaking agricultural activities or minus forest produce collection. Now, none of these occupations could give them the substance of level of income for their livelihood. Basket making is a major economic activity found among the Koragas. Both male and female participate in basket making. They prepare bamboo cylinders for stocking paddy, and kuttari, that is a safety for chickens, batti, that is a basket, tadapan for cleaning paddy, rice, etc., The time taken to collect the materials required for basketry is indeed too long. It may just be a day or may go up to a week. In addition, the Forest Department has also brought in greater restrictions on collection of the forest produces. Due to lack of demand for their products and difficulty in getting raw materials, this occupation does not enable them to meet the basic amenities of life. Most of them have shifted from their traditional occupation from scavenger to daily wage laborers. Basketry of different varieties and sizes are made from the raw materials collected from the nearby forest. The Koragas are deft in handling creepers and splitting bamboo. The Koraga weave the baskets with crude implements like the katti, that is a special billhook, and dabanna, a thick needle. It seems their main clientele or the agriculturists, as the most of their basket prepared by them are used by cultivators during the agricultural operations, particularly for carrying the headloads. Both the sexes are engaged in making baskets. This work is mostly carried out by women folk, while the men sell them in the local shanties or carry them door to door for sale against cash payments or barter with rice and other cereals. Basketry of different varieties and sizes are made from the raw material collected from the nearby forest. Men and women belong to different age groups are engaged in basket making. The percentage of the population in basketry goes on increasing with age. This being their traditional occupation, people belong to the older generation are involved in basket making than the younger generation. Here you can see the older people are more involved in basket making. Almost all the older women involved in basket making. Here you can observe the different kind of baskets which are made by the women folk are kept here. Most of these are used for agricultural purposes, for carrying the mud and fertilizers, and men is involved in selling their products in the shanties and also in the villages or on the streets, which you can observe here, the way they have made the baskets. Koragas worship Mariamma, the goddess of presiding over smallpox, which has been regarded as one of the most popular and powerful deity in the South Kannada districts and worshipped with a number of sacrifices of goats, buffaloes and pigs. The Kata, as the chief deity they will be worshipping, which is mostly worshipped in the month of May and July and October under Kasaragod tree. In Tulu, it is known as Kayar tree, and in Malayalam, it is known as Kanjiram tree. It grows into a big tree. The leaves and the seeds have a medicinal value. Koragas believe that spirit, that is Daiva, lives in the Kasaragod tree. The Bhuta or Daiva can be divided into two categories. The first categories include those which are common for the community as a whole and worshipped with utmost reverence. The second category of Bhuta are associated with the spirit of the dead ancestors and are supposed to exercise a great influence on the well-being of the family concerned. Among the dead ancestors, Bhuta, a mention may be made of the Bhuta of the grandfather, known as Ajjan Bhuta, and the spirit of the dead grandmother is called as the Ajji Bhuta. The other important Bhutas are Heguli, Guliga, Rahu, Jatiga, Salada, Heguli, Jugeda, Punjirulli, Marusur, Shivarao, and Bobaria. These are represented by the images of the stones symbolizing different animals. For instance, Heguli is represented by image of a bull. Some of the Bhutas are regarded as females. These include Chavaldi, Kallurti, Ammanoru, and Pilichandi, which are mostly represented by stone images. These are sometimes dressed in women clothes also. The family Bhutas are kept inside the house over a wooden basket known as Bhutastan, that is seat of a Bhuta. Each family has its distinctive set of botas. In addition to the other botas such as Punjurali, Amanoru, and Nicha, etc., these are worshipped collectively by the member of the Kutumba at least once in a year, with offerings of fruits, flowers, and sacrifices of fowls. All these members of the Kutumba, if they reside in distinct places, are supposed to join in the annual worship of the family Bhota. Like the worship of the family Bhota by various individual families, all the important Bhotas in the community are collectively worshipped at least once in a year. These are some of the Bhotas or the ancestors which have been died represented in the stone form which you are observing here. They worship these Bhotas annually. The Bhotas which represents are known as Anjana Bhota and the spirit of great grandfather, and Ajji Bhota, that is the spirit of great grandmother. The other Bhotas also they will be worshipping in respect of the dead ancestors. The Koragas worship gods and goddesses of other deities, which can be broadly grouped into two categories. The first category comprises the more popular gods and goddesses of all India spread or regionally important. These includes such as God as Rama, Krishna, Vithoba, Ganesha, Shiva, Lakshmi, and Hanuman. The second category comprises the various Bhotas and spirits. Each Koragas village or a locality has a tribal council which is presided by a headman known as Gurikara or Budayant. He is assisted by a person known as Ottu Gurikara, who functions as a messenger or a go-between for convening and conducting the meetings of the tribal council. From the account given by the earlier writers and also present research shows that all the social disputes involving the members of the community were settled by the headman, who used to be very powerful. The ethnic vision of Koraga and their complete dependence on the immediate environment shows their age-old adaptation and humorous life with their ecosystem. It is in recent years that they are now being exposed to outside world, and their adaptability is being challenged. Due to the interference of outside non-tribals and forest policies and programs, they are being exploited, alienated, and losing control over their environment and thereby struggling to survive. The loss of forest and restrictions in bamboo cutting is posing a great problems, especially for women who take the responsibility to feed themselves and their families. They are now struggling much more to collect the bamboo from the forest for basket making and fuel for cooking and different kind of minor forest produce collection from the forest. Malnutrition is quite common among these people. Maternal mortality and infant mortality rate is very high. This is mainly due to the neglect of healthcare practices. Most of them are anemic. From the inception of pregnancy to its termination, no specific nutritional diet was consumed by women. The consumption of iron, calcium, vitamin during pregnancy was poor. The habit of consuming liquor during pregnancy was found to be common among the women. The living conditions of the Koragas are very poor, which you can observe here. Almost all the children are malnourished, as though there is a ICDS program, but the ICDS is not functioning here. There is no provision to take care of the old people here, especially for the Koragas. They are suffering a lot. The old people are neglected totally, which you have observed. The old people, they are not able to get one meal a day. They are struggling very hard for their survival. It is very difficult for them if you are not going to protect for their future living. Here you can observe for water also they have to walk for miles together. Here you can observe the pregnant women drawing the water from the well. This is the way they have to, as though there is a pump set and other things, but it is not functioning. They have to draw water from the ropes and they have to take miles together to their houses. It is a difficult way of life for the women. Both they have to work in the forest for the collection of the bamboo and making the baskets, and also to do household work. It is very hard for them. So there is a need for these primitive tribes. A special action plan should be made for conservation of these primitive tribes. Especially the women and children are very weak. And if you are not going to protect them, the future generation or the offsprings which are going to come from these Koragas will not be the strongly built and they will be healthy. The pregnant woman, you can observe here, is struggling very hard for her survival. In concern with the dress, except the nightie which she is wearing, there is no other dress for her to replace. So the conditions of delivery is also very poor, as they are treated as a lower caste people and they are not allowed into the hospitals for the deliveries also. The pregnant and lactating mothers are suffering a great difficulty in day-to-day life. Here they are taking the help of the children for carrying the water and also for preparation of the food. Most of these children are drop out from the school. There is no school nearby. They have to go for long distances. Most of these children, they will be going for up to second standard or third standard, then they will drop. If you look into the household articles, only 2 or 3 aluminum vessels they are having that will be using for cooking and also for preservation of the water. That is the conditions. They have to go for washing the clothes miles together. That is the pathetic conditions they are living. The struggle for the existence in the present circumstances becoming very hard for them. In the past, they hardly faced any difficulty in collecting the raw materials from the nearby jungles and large areas of uncultivated wasteland available, where they could collect the forest produce without much restriction. Now the jungles or uncultivated wastelands have been cleared and used for other developmental activities such as industries, housing, etc. This is a consequence has restricted the supply of different varieties of creepers and bamboos, etc. in sufficient quantities. The Koragas are increasingly finding it difficult to follow the basket making occupation, as they are facing stiff competition from the basket made of synthetic fiber, which has flooded in the countryside. As stated before, it is difficult for obtaining a new raw material from the forest and also to collect the bamboo from the forest. As a result, they are suffering a great deal of economic problems, which you are facing for their survival also. So if you are not going to protect, if you are not going to give them the raw material for the making of the baskets, they lose their identity and also they lose the substance of economy. It is no doubt they are going to perish.
But they too, I think nowadays that is also not possible. Now they have left the occupation is serving other people as wage laborers.
See, here which I have visited that area about 4 months back for my visit for documenting the film, observed there is no forest policy has been implemented in this region, as though they are living from generations in that region, forest region. As you have rightly said, cutting the bamboo for their survival, they are forest people are objecting. So if the bamboo is also not allowed to cut, because bamboo can be cut and it can regenerate within a forest. So that at least they should be provided bamboo to cut in the forest. Relaxation should be given to the tribes.
But who has to give the relaxation?
The forest department has to give.
Forest department, the decision has to be taken at the center level, and from there it has to be.
Forest policy already it is there. No, they can collect minor forest produce and also bamboo and other things, but they are not
I
allowed.
think cutting bamboo may not come under forest.
Yes, it is allowed for the tribes.
I see what you mean.
Minor forest produce, this one, and dry wood they can collect.
But as far as my knowledge goes, the lower level forest officials in the forest, they too are not aware of the.
See, they have their own bamboo groves.
Yes.
They have the land, bamboo groves where they are cultivating. Even that bamboo groves, they have the certain bamboo groves which belong to them.
Yeah.
That bamboo groves also the forest people are occupied. That is what I am telling. Due to lack of education and required skills, the Koragas are not able to take advantage of the new economic opportunities which have been grabbed by the plain people migrated to these tribal areas where the Koragas are concentrated. The Koragas are in need of protected drinking water, permanent houses for their living, regular agricultural employment through NRGA scheme, pattas for their lands, especially for those who are inhabiting in the hill regions and on the periphery of the villages. The government policies and the schemes are very good, but at the implementation level it is failed. To develop and protect the Koragas, we need a holistic approach for the implementing the welfare programs. The response to the welfare programs introduced by the government is very good, but they are not able to get the benefit which is meant for them. The need of the hour is to protect them and to by way of providing the permanent shelters, regular distribution of the provisions through PDS system, educational facilities, and also by providing them health facilities, which is very important. Here you can observe most of them are malnourished. The women, the children are malnourished and they are very, very badly living in the poor living conditions which you have seen in the houses, and also the old people conditions of living is very poor. Most of the people doesn't possess clothing, especially the children. Only the men and women, they purchase second clothes from the market, and it is also creating a problem of different diseases such as scabies and rashes, which you have observing here. Most of these children are not going for the school because of not availability of school nearby. So there is a need for them to provide a special school for their education, especially for the primitive tribes in Karnataka. There is no school which is specially meant for the Koraga tribes in this region. We need to provide a special school for them, like a micro project which has been undertaken by the government of Orissa under SSA program to provide education for all the people of the Koragas. Koragas have a unique folk dance and folk songs which are very important in their way of life.
the Koragas who are exposed to the civilization and also who have worked with the villagers for agricultural peasant societies for many centuries, now they are facing the problem of their survival. They are considered the lower status according to the professor. They are considered to be the untouchables ones, and they are the lower status people in the society. But in spite of their sufferings since last more than 100-200 years, even now they are not able to establish themselves and they are not able to come up with their own sustainability for their living. They are facing a problem of their survival, not only based on the economic conditions of living, but also health problems they are facing, and also the problems of their survival is mostly based on the impact of urban societies and exploitation by the forest departments and restrictions their movement into the forest in collecting the minor forest produce and also cutting the bamboo for their own traditional occupation. These are some of the restrictions, these are some of the problems they are facing. When they are interviewing, the Koragas themselves told, we need the bamboo from the forest to collect it and to make our baskets and live in the forest. But the forest people are restricted not to enter into the forest itself because they are not going into cutting into the living trees. They are for centuries living within the ecosystem, within the biosphere, without hurting the animals and living things in the forest. Nowadays they are not using the hunting also and also the gathering. Minor forest produce also many of them are left. Even they are not able to get the dry wood for cooking. That is the problems they are facing. So now with these conditions of living, the problem is very difficult for the future survival. Until unless if you cannot make a unique policy, that is action plan for these Koragas, a committee of anthropologists who has worked in these tribes should be constituted, and we have to thoroughly study these Koraga tribes and what kind of development we have to bring for the conservation of these Koragas is very much need of the hour. So it is not that as we can pump huge amount of money, it is going for really it is a waste. I have observed their houses are in depleted conditions, which you have seen in the episode in the videography. Their houses are in depleted conditions and their economy is also in pathetic conditions. Many of them are suffering with ailments, and you have seen the poor old age people that doesn't have a meal at least once in a day. Many of them are not able to get the old age pensions, the rations also properly. So there is an urgent need to save this population. We have to make an action plan for conservation of the people. Otherwise, these Koragas may extinct from the planet in another 2 to 3 decades. As though they are not going to extinct, but biologically, genetically, culturally, they lose their identity like any other tribes in the world. They may lose their identity. So it is the consent of the government of India and also the people of India to save these aborigines before they extinct from the planet. Thank you.
I'm really thankful you came all the way and you met me here and you made me to speak a little bit about Koraga.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sir.
This is the only digital research channel in India producing the documentary ethnographic films on the endangered human populations and ethnic cultures of India. So subscribe this channel to know more about the endangered human population and